Well, let's talk to our New York correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, about that debate. Sherwin, I'm going to start with the last line of your report, which says it's not going to shift the needle so much. I looked at the New York Times and they've got an interesting headline that says, "Never has something so boring been so appreciated by the public." So what's your take on how it played out? And as you've said, perhaps not earth-shattering in terms of changing the game, but quite a departure from what we saw over a week ago.
Yeah, so night and day between the first debate in Cleveland, Ohio, and what we saw in Salt Lake City, Utah overnight. Decorum, a moderator that was heard, candidates or nominees that were listening to each other. But remember the context here. This was a debate happening in the shadow of a president that was diagnosed with COVID-19 last week, a contagion at the White House, some 34 people infected as a result. In addition, the military brass, campaign officials, Republicans in the Senate. This is a virus that is spreading, and its source seems to now be the White House. In addition to that, you have 210,000 Americans infected. You have an economy that's teetering. So that was the context of the administration coming into this debate, represented by the vice president, the vice presidential nominee, Mike Pence. And it was really for him to change the trajectory of this campaign. And so the question might be, was he able to do that? Was he able to land some blows? Did he shake the foundations of the Biden-Harris coalition here? And the answer is an unequivocal no. The New York Times, I think, sums it up perfectly. Yes, there was decorum, but this was really a moment where Mike Pence needed to stand out. He needed to change the conversation, and that does not appear to have happened, because coming into this debate, Peter, he would have been on the back foot. Kamala Harris would have had the ammunition. She called this the greatest failure of a presidential administration in terms of their handling of the coronavirus. And he really didn't have any comeback except to say, that's not true, or we've always been honest with the American people, which we know is not the case. They've been dishonest with the American people. Bob Woodward's book is evidence of that. He has recordings of the president talking about how he was downplaying the extent of this pandemic, and that it was 5 times worse than the flu. We got the president on tape. So for Mike Pence to come out and sort of dismiss the truth that Kamala Harris was speaking really didn't fly, certainly if this was about convincing that slither of the electorate that hasn't made up their minds. But that's what I think, Peter. Why don't we listen to a professional, right? We've heard from an associate professor at the University of Southern California, Christian Phillips. Let's listen to what she had to say on this.
Pence felt that his main task was to really make the case for continuing to trust in Trump, to look after the voters that Trump has always looked after, regardless of how or what he had to say in terms of the truth or the facts or the actual policies. And Harris had a really difficult job, I think, in terms of needing to both make the case for the Biden campaign, attack Trump, and do it all while being as sort of passionate and sincere and authentic and authoritative and competent as she possibly could. And I think she succeeded. And it was really a refreshing change from last week. And I wish we could have another debate with this much policy substance.
Yeah, so no one really landing any punches, Peter, and essentially the race is probably where it was before this debate, but we'll have to wait for the polling to come out post what happened in Salt Lake City last night.
All right, so Donald Trump interrupted Joe Biden 71 times, and there was less of it this time, but Kamala Harris put down her foot quite early on, didn't she?
Well, also having a very difficult role here. We talk about, how the media reports on female candidates, particularly in the political arena where, that is so heavily male dominated, really anywhere in the world, no less here in the United States. So she was under particular scrutiny, but she did have her moments where she would sort of stare him down, shake her head, tell him not to interrupt her. I am speaking, Mr. Vice President. And then we can have a conversation okay, she said at one point, and really trying to sort of, in a very calm way, put him in his place. But you'll remember, Peter, that she's only the fourth woman at this late stage in these vice presidential or presidential debates, the one-on-ones, only the fourth woman to appear in one of these debates. The first woman, the first black woman of South Asian descent to achieve that feat. The first was Geraldine Ferraro in 1984. The second was Sarah Palin in 2008. Then, of course, Hillary Clinton at the top of the ticket in 2016, and now Kamala Harris. So the level of scrutiny, the level of pressure, the level of coaching she was probably under in terms of, not wanting to come across as an angry black woman, because that might, turn off a segment of the electorate that is now supporting Joe Biden. We also heard from the head of political science at Howard University, Professor Ravi Perry. And you remember Howard University is, of course, where Kamala Harris studied in the 1980s, a historically black university in the United States. Let's listen to what Professor Ravi Perry had to say on this.
Kamala Harris did, I think, a very firm and strong job in being clear and being patient. She was interrupted several times by Vice President Pence. She had to sit there while he, made clear lies about her record and about Joe Biden's record, and bite her tongue. She had several moments, certainly as Black Twitter has found noteworthy, where her facial expressions, were like a black mother's facial expression when your child is lying, but you let them finish, and before and that happened a lot.
So, Peter, I'm guessing you'll be very familiar with that facial expression.
Yes, indeed. All right, we have to wrap it up, but very quickly, in like 20 seconds, is
Sure.
Biden-Trump Part 2 going to happen?
Yeah, big question, right? That's the debate happening post the debate. Is the Presidential Commission for Debates has decided that the planned second debate on October 15th would be virtual. Trump quickly said he would not participate in a virtual event. He said he wasn't going to waste his time. We've had an announcement out of the Biden campaign that they will now instead do a town hall event, which is what was supposed to happen with the two candidates. He will now do a singular town hall event hosted by ABC News. There's a lot of debate going on behind the scenes as to whether that second debate is now postponed to around the 27th of October, which is when the third debate would have been scheduled, or I beg your pardon, the 22nd of October, and then moving the third debate to the 29th of October. But the Biden campaign is objecting to that because they say it's too close to the election. So no clarity on the last two debates, but Biden will host an event by himself on October 15th.
Sherwin Bryce-Pease from New York. Thanks very much indeed. Chat to you soon. That's Sherwin Bryce-Pease, our correspondent in New York City.